Hello and welcome to Pixel Magic Tutorials. I am your host Geekman, and today we're going to learn how to create a grungy alien-like rainbow wallpaper effect in Photoshop. Now, a couple of assumptions that I need to get out of the way right off the bat. Number one, I am using Photoshop CC 2017. If you're using an earlier version of Photoshop, some of the effects may not work as expected. Second, I am using Windows. If you're using a Mac, then when I say hit the Control key on the keyboard, that means hit the Command key. And when I say hit the Alt key on the keyboard, that means hit the Option key. So with all of that out of the way, let's get started by hitting Control N on the keyboard to bring up the new image dialog box. And let's name our new image as, grungy wallpaper. Grungy rainbow. Let's make it grungy rainbow wallpaper. There, that sounds better. So width, let's make it 3,840 pixels. Height, 2,160 pixels. Resolution, 150 pixels per inch. RGB color, 8-bit. Background contents don't matter. We're going to change that, so I made it white. The color profile that we're using is the same that I always use, which is Adobe RGB 1998. Pixel aspect ratio is square pixels. Let's hit create, and we're now ready to begin creating our grungy alienish rainbow wallpaper. First thing that we want to do is we want to change our background into an editable layer. So you want to double click on the background layer to bring up a little dialog box like this, and we want to name this as base, B-A-S-E. Hit OK, and our background layer is now called base and is editable. Not edible, editable. Yes, I don't eat it, I change it. So now what we need to do is change our foreground and background color to the default black and white. And you do that by hitting D on the keyboard or by clicking on the little black and white icon on the toolbar, which will change your foreground and background colors to the default black and white. Next up, we want to get our gradient tool, so let's hit G on the keyboard to bring up the gradient tool, or you can click on the gradient tool on the toolbar over here. You want to make sure that you are on the black and white, which is foreground to background color. You want to make sure that you are linear. Mode is normal, opacity is 100%, reverse is unchecked, dither and transparency are both checked. Then you want to go here on the base layer to about here on the bottom. Click with your left mouse button, hold down Shift, which will constrain your gradient to a straight line. As you can see, I can't move it left or right, really. If I move too far, it goes to a 45-degree angle, but really, it should stay in a straight line vertical. So the next thing that you need to do is, while you're holding this, get to about the same distance as where you began. So I began about here, so I want to end right about here. Let go of the left mouse button and then Shift, and you now have a gradient from black to white or white to black. But you definitely want to have white on top, black on bottom. Okay, so that is our base gradient. The next thing that we need to do, though, is we got to give this base layer a layer style of rainbow. So let's go over here to base, make sure it's selected. Let's go to our layer effects, and let's go to gradient overlay. Okay, and what we're going to do here, and this is vital to get the waves on the top and the bottom, the grungy alien rainbow on both the top and the bottom, is you want to make sure that the blend mode for your gradient overlay is on difference or exclusion. So if you go exclusion, it changes slightly, and if you go to difference, it changes to this. I like difference, so that's what I'm sticking with. So blend mode of difference, dither is checked, opacity is 100%. The gradient that we're using is the spectrum gradient. Now you can use any gradient that you want, but I have found that the spectrum looks the best. You can change it to anything you want, like here or here or here. They all have their own unique look that can look cool when the effect is finished, but I'm going to stick with spectrum for now. And we're going to go to style is going to be linear. Align with layer is checked. Reverse is unchecked. Angle is going to be 0%. Scale is going to be 100%. Then hit OK, and we're done with the layer effects. But we do have a filter that we need to put on our base layer. So we're going to go up here to filter. We're going to go to distort, and we're going to go to wave. And the way that this works is we're going to give this a kind of wavy look using a square wave, so the type is going to be square. Now the number of generators, I'm using 20. I'm using 20 because it makes it slightly blurred, but it doesn't make it too harsh or too blurred. If you use a lower number, it's going to be more blurred. See, if I go down here, it becomes more blurry. And if I use a higher number, it's going to be harsher, meaning the whites are whiter and the blacks are blacker with very little gray in between. As you can see, as I go higher, it becomes more black and white, less smooth. So I like to use 20 as my number here. Now wavelength is a minimum of 10, maximum of 999. Amplitude is minimum of 1, maximum of 80. Scale is going to be 100 and 100. Like I said, the type is going to be square, and undefined areas, you want to repeat the edge pixels. Now, an important note here is if you want more of the waves here, all you have to do is change the max number under wavelength. And the lower you go, the more waves you get, as you can see. I happen to like having fewer waves. I think it's a little bit classier. So I'm using 999 as my max wavelength. If you want more waves, use a lower number of in your max wavelength. Okay, once you're happy with it, you can also hit randomize here to change the way that the wave is. So if you randomize, see it changes slightly. So you can keep doing that until you see something that you like. And here, this looks fine. So I'll hit OK. And we now have this look going on here. Now, what we want to do is we want to change this so that you get a separation between the top and bottom waves. As you can see, they're slightly different colors with this kind of connection in between. Let me go back to my V here. With a, they're connected in between, but they kind of overlap. What we want to do is separate them. So the way that we're going to do that is we're going to use an adjustment layer of a levels adjustment layer. So let's go to our layer adjustments and let's go to levels. Okay, we now have a levels adjustment layer above our base. Once we have that, what we want to do is use the gray point right here to give us some separation. And the way that we do that is we select the numbers there, and we're just going to go to 0.15. That is our starting point. And as you can see, that separates our top and bottom wavelengths quite a bit. Now, if you want it more separated, you can go to a lower number like 10. If you want it less separated, go to a higher number like 20. Okay, but I'm going to stick with 15 for this tutorial. Feel free to change this any way that you want for your desired effect. So now that we are done with levels, the next thing that we want to do is create a new layer above levels. So what we're going to do is hit Control, Shift, and N on the keyboard to bring up the new layer dialog box. We're going to name this as Grunge 1. Okay, you don't have to do anything else. Hit OK, and we are now ready with Grunge 1. Once we have Grunge 1 ready, we need to do another gradient from black to white, meaning black on the bottom, white on top on our grunge layer. So let's hit G on the keyboard to bring up our gradient. You don't have to change anything. It should all still be the same. Start somewhere near the bottom like we did before. Click, hold down Shift, go up towards the top like we did before. Let go, and we now have a new gradient. Yay. The next thing that we need to do is we need to convert this Grunge 1 to a smart object. So right-click on that layer and then hit Convert to Smart Objects. Now, we're doing this because we're going to put some filter effects on here, and you may want to twiddle with those to get the desired effect. So I'm going to show you how I get the effect that I like, but if you want to change the effect in any way, turning this layer into a smart object allows the filters to sit on top of the smart object, and then you can go back and change those filters at any time in the future to get a different look. So that's why I'm changing this into a smart object. Once you are done with converting it into a smart object, what you want to do is go up here to Filter, then go to Filter Gallery, and we're going to put on 3 filters. So let me get rid of these for now so that I can show you exactly how I did this. And the first filter that we're going to put on is the grain filter. Now the grain filter can be found under Texture, and you go to Grain, and then what you want to do is you want to make the intensity 100, you want to make the contrast 70, and the grain type is going to be vertical. Okay, then what you want to do is go down to the bottom of the layers under your filter gallery here, right here, and you want to do a new effect layer. Now it automatically doubles the filter that you already have on there. Don't worry about that. You just need to select a new filter. So the next filter that we're going to select is going to be this guy under Artistic Neon Glow. Once you have selected Neon Glow, you want to make the glow size 10, the glow brightness 50, and the glow color white. Hit OK, and you now have that done. The next thing that you want to do is create another new effect layer, so click on that, and then you want to give it glowing edges, which can be found under Stylize. So click on Stylize and then glowing edges. Once you have clicked on glowing edges, you want to make it edge width of 1, edge brightness of 7, and smoothness of 3. Once you are done with all of that, you now have this cool looking effect. You want to hit OK, and you have this effect right here. Now, all we have to do to apply this effect to our base layer is we need to change this layer mode to multiply. All right, so let's change this to multiply right here. And you now have this cool little alien grungy rainbow wallpaper effect. But we're going to go one further here, and we're going to double up on this grunge effect that we put on top of our base layer by duplicating it and changing the filters slightly. That's why I made it as a smart object, remember? And we're going to invert it, and that's going to give us a slightly different look than what you see right now. So let's hit Control J to duplicate this layer. Let's double click on it and call it Grunge 2. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to click on the little arrow on the right-hand side so that we can see our smart filters. And what we're going to do first is make sure that grunge is selected, and you're going to hit Control-I on the keyboard to invert it. Then we're going to go up here to our layer mode, and we're going to change our layer mode to overlay. So we're going to go down here to overlay, like so. And then what we're going to do is double click on Filter Gallery underneath Grunge 2 to bring up, you'll get this little box here. You can click on Don't Show Again because it's just telling you that you're not going to see a preview of the effect because there are other effects on top of it that it can't change in real time. So you just hit OK and you move on to changing the filter gallery filters. So the first thing is we're going to change our grain is going to stay at 100%, and we're going to change the contrast here to 85, and we're going to keep the grain type as vertical. Next on Neon Glow, we're going to keep the we're going to change the glow size here to 24. And we're going to keep everything else the same. So glow brightness stays at 50, glow color stays as white. And then over here on glowing edges, what we're going to do is we're going to change it. We're going to leave this as 1 edge width. We're going to change the edge brightness to 6, and we're going to change the smoothness here to 5. Once you have done that, we're finished with our extra effects, and we can close the little arrow here. And as you can see, we now have a slightly different, more prominent look to our grungy alien rainbow wallpaper. If I turn off Grunge 2, you'll see that it's much more muted and a little bit, well, I guess just muted is the right word to say. But if you turn on Grunge 2, it gets a lot brighter and is a lot more grunge to the actual rainbow waves. So that's why we added in the second one. Now, if you don't like it, just turn it off and you've got the original back. So that's it for this effect. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe. I do new tutorials every Tuesday. Once again, my name is Geekman, and I'm signing off for Pixel Magic Tutorials.